Annenberg Media. When we are bereaved by the death of someone close to us, although the loss happens in a moment, the effect can last a lifetime. In grieving, we struggle to comprehend our loss. Grief is as distinctive as the individual who suffers, as the child who is orphaned, the adult who loses a parent, or the mother who loses a son. In their own way, each tries to find a balance between overcoming the loss and keeping the memory of their loved one alive. The death becomes a landmark between before and after, between life with and without the person who has died.
15 seconds have gone by and I don't feel any better than I did before. That's kind of the way our society has been operating, that we should get to our grief just a few minutes, maybe a year, a few months, a certain point in time where we should stop grief and get back and do our share of work and show up in time for meetings and not be kind of lumbering around, lost in our sorrow. We should pay attention to the important things around us. How long does grief last? It lasts as long as a very long life does. Maybe we shouldn't be looking at our clocks or calendars quite so much.
Anita Evans and Daphne Green's mother, Mira, died 6 months ago. The death of a parent can mean the loss of someone who has shared our life's whole history. Our sorrow is twofold because we lose a parent we love and a witness to our life. Mira Evans suffered from bone marrow cancer for 2 years and received palliative care at home, but spent her last days in hospital. Mira's daughters reflect on their loss.
As far as the shock of losing my mom, it was something I feared my whole life. And I actually had the phone call from the hospital, and I thought it was Daphne calling me to arrange who's going to be at the hospital early in the morning, and it was the doctor, and he said to me, "Hello, is this, Miss Evans? And this is Dr. So-and-so. Your mother has just passed away, unfortunately, and what would you like us to do with her body?" And those were his words, and that's what I heard. So, as far as grieving goes, it's still so fresh.
The first realization she was really gone was sitting by the bed, and she was still warm, but I could sense that her spirit had left her body. And I think, how did we get through that first bit? It was the strength that Mom gave us as a family. My brother came down from me for my sister Edna was there, Anita was there. My children, my 13-year-old son and my 17-year-old daughter were pillars for me. And the pain is still there. You can see that I'm struggling with it, and it's been 6 months. I think clearing the apartment right now is very, very hard, because I have to accept that Mom's not here. I need to stop.
Hi, how are you?
Claudette Ugoji is a community palliative care nurse. Towards the end of Mira's life, Claudette was her primary caregiver and became a friend and support to the whole family.
That's lovely. It's amazing.
Her zest for life was really something to behold. She was supposed to have a prognosis of, I think they gave her 9 months. She lived for 2 years after that. And it's all because of that spirit, that fighting spirit that she had.
This is in front of Joseph and Ralla's
her
porch.
brother's house.
Were you at that?
No.
No.
They're a month apart in age. I brought over many photo albums, and we looked at all of them and talked about my mom all the time. And I still find it healing now to go through the albums and look at them and still wish she was here. Just wish she was here. And that's, you know, I don't know when you get over that part of it, that you actually accept that that person is gone and they're not coming back.
Grief is a healing. It is the way we heal from loss. And if I can show you something graphically, one of the great humanistic psychologists, James Bugenthal, used to teach about grief, and he would say, when people come into his office, there was something that stood between them and life like this, and they could only see life through the holes in this thing, and this thing usually was a loss. And that in the process of healing, what happens is this: it doesn't go away. A lot of people are afraid if they grieve, they're going to forget. It doesn't go away. What happens is you're able to remember with love rather than with pain.
5 years ago, the Levy family suffered a terrible loss. At the age of 28, Chris Levy was murdered. His sisters Sandra and Sophia and mother Carmen have struggled to overcome his sudden and violent death.
My brother had been at a club with his common-law wife and their closest friends celebrating, and he was helping the owner of the club. He was bouncing a little bit, and a man came in who wanted to get in for a discount rate. My brother told him no, he couldn't. On their way out, my brother started to walk out. This guy was out there. He saw my brother, called his name, and shot. He shot my brother and the manager, who wasn't killed. My brother died almost instantly. He didn't have to travel very far to the hospital. I think it was a matter of minutes. That's basically what had happened.
All of a sudden, again, it will just hit, Chris, he's dead, you know, and I won't hear his voice on that phone. For a while, I used to sit back in the evening and I would wait for that phone to ring. Or as I said, I would wait for the doorbell to keep ringing, you know, so I could let Chris in. Cars would be driving and I would be staring. My God, that looks so much like Chris. And I start crying. Sometimes I have to stop, you know, and I have to continue driving and crying. And the thing is, nobody will ever understand how mother feels. And, you know, I yelled at him the Friday night before he died, and I always remember that. You know, we never had that chance again to really get back to the fun days, you know, because he died.
I went to bereaved families, and that really helped me because there's a group of people. I think there was about 10 of us, and we just sat around and talked about our experiences, you know, of, you know, someone's mother died or someone's sister died or something, and it was nice because some of the feelings that you were going through, you thought you were the only person going through it. It was really hard for me when anything ended, because I became very depressed, because it was like my brother's life ended. Anything that ended, I felt like I was missing something. Like even my wedding, after it was completed, I didn't want it to end because I knew that I'd have to find something else to do.
It's an ongoing process. I think one of the things that I did for the healing process was I didn't ask why. And some of it was partly because of my schedule. I didn't give myself time to ask why. and I decided that I wouldn't ask why because there is no answer. Chris was only 28 years old when he was killed. For me to ask why, I would make myself absolutely mad. I have tried to be constructive with how I deal with the emotion that comes from dealing with grief. Once I realized that I was grieving, because I thought I wasn't. I thought I wasn't angry, and I was angry. So a combination of not asking why, of being constructive with my anger, and exercise is a great outlet for me.
I don't cry a lot, but when I did cry, it helped me. And for the past 2 years now, I've actually felt happier. You know, the guilt is gone where if I was laughing, I'd feel guilty for laughing because my brother's not there to laugh with me. So then I'd kind of, I shouldn't be laughing. And for 2 years right after he died, I didn't feel that I should be laughing because he's not here to laugh with me. And then talking to my doctor and just realizing that, Chris doesn't want us to just sit here and die. He wants us to go on with his life. He's in a better place than where we are right now. And I really do believe that. He's better off than all of us here.
Guilt, fear, distrust, anger, those are the names of grief. People think grief is sadness. People will come up to us and say, well, after a workshop, they'll say, well, I'm not sad, so maybe I'm not grieving. And we'll say, what are you? Well, I'm angry, or I'm guilty, or I'm afraid. Those are all forms of grief. Every time you have ever been angry is a form of grief. Every time you have ever been afraid is a form of grief. They are all reactions, as opposed to responses, to loss. Loss of safety, loss of something that was desired. Every afflictive emotion is a form of grief.
So it'd be nice to know, well, the person's going to go through this stage, that stage, and 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, everything's going to be hunky-dory, and all right. It may work that way in the movies or textbook or something. It doesn't work that way in real life. Grief is not a series of railroad stations you pass, and then you get off here, and you get off there, and finally you're okay. We go through grief in different ways. Some people very quickly, some people never quite going through it altogether. I don't think we help an awful lot when we expect people to move from station to station to station.
Writing now within the circle of another kind of peace, and though I have known it well, I found the recollection of that dark blessedness hard. But this much I recall, how everything seems to be
As an orphan,
so much despicable
author
trickery.
John Bentley Mays found out that children do not always receive the help they need to articulate their grief. It was 20 years before he could begin to comprehend the death of his parents.
I think that growing up on a plantation in the South, you're aware of mortality from a very early age. My father's death was an oddity from the very minute it happened, it seemed. I wasn't told for a month. He was gone out of my life before I ever really understood why he didn't come back from his last trip. It still feels like he walked out of my life at age 40. It doesn't feel like he died some sort of a peaceful death and is now buried in the ground. My mother's death was far too stark and far too horrible a death to cover up anything about it. It was a death from cancer. Because she was a Christian Scientist, she didn't believe in taking any medicine or any treatment, so she died in great pain. I hardly had a chance to adjust to the first death before the second one happened. And so leaving me in a kind of void at the age of 9 or 10 that triggered off all of the symptoms of depression, of having been personally abandoned, of feeling betrayed by people who I could depend upon, and all of it leading to the first thoughts when I was about 8 years old of suicide that would eventually lead me to a nervous breakdown 20 years later. It's better to have a child to scream and yell and throw himself on the coffin or whatever they do in traditional cultures, rather than go through this particular long period of denial and long period of absence that happened after my father's death, or this strange thing that happened after my mother's death. We all knew that her death had been terrible and painful, and yet to cry after she had died would have been unconscionable in my family. They were all Christian Scientists, and you didn't accept death as a reality. You have to accept death as a reality. That was the absolute precondition of the work of mourning that liberates you then to live your own life. The trouble is I kept living their lives because I didn't understand how to end their lives. It was their bodies, their corpses that I was carrying around on my back for years. A child is burdened particularly by these corpses if there is not an effective way to detach them, to see that person put into the ground and to have that person definitively left out of one's life. It was when I was 25 that I finally went through the nervous breakdown that led me to the beginning of healing and the beginning of mourning. I was in extremely bad shape. And my psychiatrist took a chance, because this is the kind of thing that can throw someone into suicide. He took a chance by saying to me, "It's time to bury your father."
For a very young child who loses somebody close to them, the ramifications are enormous. That child is only beginning a life journey. They're only beginning their formation. And how that loss is experienced at a very young age will then be replayed at many different junctures during their life.
When Jennifer Newman was 9, her mother was diagnosed with AIDS. The causes remain unknown to the family.
Everybody loved my mother. My mother was just a likable person. People always knew that if they ever had a problem, they could always come to my mother for anything. I remember like the last time I ever talked to my mother, when I went into the hospital and I had no idea that she was going to die the next day, because the doctors had told me that there was an improvement in her, and I thought this was great. We sat there and cried and held each other, and like it was all "I love you," and even when we did say goodbye, like we didn't know it was going to be forever.
Her mother died when Jennifer was 11.
That was when I finally realized, like, what am I going to do without my mother? You know, like, how am I going to go on in life? And it really scared me for a while. She's like my guardian angel, you know.
Jennifer is now 15. 2 years ago, her younger brother died of AIDS.
I had things I think I could have said to Robbie. I think I could have told him more about how much I did care for him because he was my brother. And how much I would miss him right now. Like, as life goes on, I will always miss my brother and my mother.
Although her father and remaining brother are HIV positive, Jennifer is free of the virus.
I only have my father and my brother left, and if I lose them, I don't know what I would do. I do have a lot of fear of that. But I try not to dwell in what could happen in the future. It's just that if I do think about the future too much, it will make my present like terrible. I think that me and my father have become very close. It is the same person that we have lost. It is my mother, my brother, but it is also his wife and his son. And because it's the same person, we know exactly what kind of grieving each other is going through, and we can like guide each other through it. We've had very, very long, very many heart-to-hearts where we just sit down and talk about them. It lets us think that they're still in our life still. Even though they're gone, we can still consider them part of our life right now. It's terrible to say that you lost somebody like to death. It doesn't sound proper. You don't want to lose anybody. Just by keeping memories, fond memories, or even bad memories of somebody just close to you, you'll remember that person, and that way they'll always seem like they're there with you.
It takes away that innocence of childhood. The child really loses their childhood quickly when they lose somebody as close as a sibling or as a parent. And again, for an adult to lose someone, there's a certain expectation of that happening. It's not considered, in quotes, normal for a young child to have to go through the death of somebody close to them. And so children who are bereaved young often have a very precocious sense about life, that life doesn't hold guarantees and that you can't absolutely count on anything.
You know, I'm counting the days now until the 23rd of October, which is his birthday. It's like I'm waiting. You know, I could remember when I was pregnant with him, and I waited you know, it's getting closer, and that feeling that, you know, I'm going to give birth to my first child. I didn't know whether it was going to be a girl or a boy, but just waiting to hold that baby in my arms. From the day he was born and I held him, it's like I fell in love with that little kid. And I watched him, I hugged him all through his years when he was an adult. And now I'm waiting for the 23rd. He won't be there for me to hug and say happy birthday. I'm hungry, because the only thing I can do on the 23rd is buy some roses.
There isn't a day that goes by that Mom isn't in my thoughts, that there isn't something that brings back a memory. And that I think is part of the healing. I think being able to have the present with Mom not being here, but her memories being with us.
Grief is a response to loss. The one thing that almost always reverses loss is the presence of love. Even if a person dies and you must live with the consequences of love, that's grief, living with the consequences of love. But so many people's connectedness with the person they've lost intensifies after they die.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about him. And in my bedroom, I have 2 pictures. In another bedroom, I have another picture. Downstairs, I have another picture. So wherever I go in my house, I always see him. And there's a piece of me that's gone forever, and that will never come back. But I know that he's with me, and he'll always be with me. So I can move on, and I have.
Your anger doesn't go away. If anything, it manifests itself even deeper. When you lose someone, you automatically fear that you could lose someone again when it's untimely. And I think that we're more present with how we're feeling about each other than we have been in the past. And I think that's as a direct result of my brother's untimely death.
We know our capacity to love when we feel sadness. We know that something that has been given to us has been of value to us. We express our anger at needing to go on without this thing of value. And when we are done with that, we often find the meaning that has been given us that we don't have to give back. And it is ours to strengthen us and to live with.
When we lose a person who's dear to us, just because the person is dead doesn't mean we don't have a relationship with that person. In other societies, it's much easier for the grieving person to talk to the dead person, to have relationships with the dead person. In North America, we're very functionalistic. We don't like that. A person may, in the corner of their mind, go off and talk to their grandmother or grandfather or a dead child, but that's not approved by society. I think maybe we need to lighten up a little bit, need to realize that we never completely recover from a grief, from a real loss. It stays with us. Life's not going to be the same again. That's not pathological, that's life. We love and we lose. But we are able to detach enough to change our relationship to the dead person. I'll be someplace and the person close to me who died will sort of maybe be with me too. This is what Cynthia would say here. You know, this is what my father would do. This is how my mother would respond to the situation. You never lose a dead person, but you're not in the grave with them either.
Annenberg Media. For information about this and other Annenberg Media programs, call 1-800-LEARNER and visit us at www.learner.org.